What's going on is Anton from antondaniels.com. I appreciate you guys for continuing to rock with me. If you are one of the people, one of the many people that are making the transition, what am I talking about? Let's just get straight to it. If you're one of the people that's getting laid off, it's not the end of the world. It's really three categories of people when it comes to layoffs, all right? The first category of people, because everybody get laid off, contrary to popular belief. Everybody think, oh my God, it's the end of the world. It's just me. You know what I'm saying? And you can't see anything except for how you feel at the time because you're the one that's going through it, right? And it's a lot of people that get laid off every single day, contrary to popular belief. Most of them is just not on the internet talking about it, complaining about it, but a lot of people go through it. A lot of people transition. And instead of me highlighting and documenting in this video in particular, people that are getting laid off, I figured I'd give you a piece of advice from a person that has been laid off multiple different times in my lifetime, right? And I want to document the three different people while at the same time then giving you some insight on how you can pivot from it, and then hopefully you find this thing to be valuable. But first of all, I just wanted to make sure that I set the precedent by saying that it's a lot of people that go through it on a regular basis. Federal workers are just now trying to figure it out because they thought that they were safe. They thought that, you know, it didn't matter what degree that they went into, that they would be able to at some point then have stability in their life, even if they sacrifice. And that's the thing about federal workers. They'll justify, you know, their position by saying, and I could be making way more money. Stop it, fam. You went into this thing knowing that the federal government is one of the most stable places that you can get a job in historically. And it was supported by taxpayer dollars, which we thought that was an endless faucet that would never get cut off. And it didn't matter what kind of degree you got, because some people got, you know, really good degrees, and then other people got diversity, equity, and inclusion degrees. I like to call them basket weaving degrees, underwater basket weaving degrees, or African American studies. And then they go in and they just do research, or, you know, they work for a specific agency, or sometimes you didn't even have to get a degree and you would get a government job and you would be safe forever because the government has largely remained untouched for decades prior to Trump coming into office. And then when Obama was in office, he tried to do something about it because we was in a crisis, but he didn't do much because the economy was just in a tailspin. It was so bad during the 2008 housing meltdown. And then Clinton, he actually got rid of like 300,000 to 400,000 people. But we got millions and millions of people that work for the federal government. And so they think that they're going through it, oh my God, it's the end of the world, because they've largely been taught that if you get a job with the federal government, you'll be safe, you'll be taken care of no matter what happens. These are the people that's largely unaffected by what goes on in the communities. But they were wrong, and for good reason, because we can't operate at a federal deficit across the board. We need to do audits and make sure that we operate at a surplus so we can pay down the federal deficit and leave a better place for our kids instead of an economy that's just completely in shambles. Neither here nor there. But three types of people that make adjustments from layoffs, okay? The first type of person is the person that's just gonna fall down on their face, give up on life, and, you know, they just gonna continue to toil away and figure it out, and they're gonna get a job here, job there. And most of the time, those type of people actually try to get a job in the same field, or they fight for their job backs. You know, they'll sue because they want that position and they think that they can have that position and that they're entitled to it for the rest of their life. I would advise you not to be that person, because you are a person that is stagnant. The second type of person is the person that, you know, they just go and get another job in the same field, or, you know, they may even pivot and try to go back to school so that they can lean back into student loans, and then they take on more debt, and they just go back into the thing that got them into into that job in the first place, which is not a bad thing, right? They just the person that's trying to get another job, that's trying to survive. They want to do their 9 to 5, they want their benefits. They want the same lifestyle. They don't want anything different. And again, it's nothing wrong with that type of person, because that type of person is looking for stability, right? And then it's the third type of person. The third type of person kind of reminds me of what I go through. And so in order for me to explain it exactly, for those of you that haven't been around for a while, let me give you a little bit of insight. So in Detroit, we used to always think that the biggest job in the world was to go and work for the auto manufacturers. you could get a degree, you could do all of that or whatever. But ultimately, it was a job practically guaranteed as I was growing up because everybody went and worked at the auto plants. Now, it wasn't as prevalent, in the 90s because, everything had changed from when my father grew up, and his father before that came up here into Detroit to get a job at Ford Chrysler GM. But in a general sense, the auto industry in Detroit is what then created the economy, and it was the most booming, vibrant city in the world at one point because we were the home of the auto plant and, we were manufacturing cars. But the economy evolves, it changes, whatever, right? More competition, everything like that. But we became so interdependent on the auto industry that when the auto industry wasn't thriving, we then fell all the way up to the point to where the city itself filed for bankruptcy. And Chrysler and GM also filed for bankruptcy at the time, and they needed saving and they took the government loans and bailouts. But the point is that when I, was coming up, by the time that I went into the steel mill, shortly after I got out of high school, I was making a lot of money, and so it wasn't a point for me to continue to educate myself because, I had went one semester at college. I didn't like the fact that I had took on a bunch of student loans or how much it was costing. And so I got up out of there, got a job, and then I rocked out, wound up getting married, so on and so forth. Fast forward, and it was tumultuous times in between there because, the industry is cyclical, but fast forward to 2007, 2008 with the housing crisis meltdown, I was jobless, and I decided to go back to school. And on top of that, to get my software engineering degree to go into an industry that I believed that, society needed and I would thrive in. And I was already into my entrepreneurial thing. So, I was already using my skill set, which I didn't need a degree for. I self-taught myself when it came to developing and programming and all of that type of stuff. But then I just needed the degree in order to get into the certain doors in corporate America. But my point is that I wound up thriving. It was the best thing that ever happened to me because being pushed out, being inside of the plant, for me in particular, even though it was stability as far as the income, what it did was it made me more stagnant because I was less inclined, I was less motivated to go out and get where I am today, which then allowed for me to really grow and boom and, be incredibly successful financially and create the businesses and get into real estate the way that I am and create more businesses and then ultimately be able to give you guys the insight and the information that you need in order to thrive and take on this mindset that then allows for me to be able to say, hey, I'm the example of it. Let me show you the receipts. This is how you can do it too. But my point is that I'm not sure, because I always felt like I was going to be incredibly successful and rich, but I'm not sure that I put that fire behind myself had I not been pushed out the door. And I thank God at the time I was going through it, I had to move back into my mom's basement. I was married. I had a child on the way. My daughter was born in 2008. And so it seemed like it was the end of the world. But the fact of the matter is, I had made up in my mind, okay, listen, I'm already at my rock bottom. My cars had got repossessed, everything. I'm already at my rock bottom. I might as well take on this mindset that it can't get any worse and throw everything I have into growing and being a thing that I believe that I'm supposed to be, which I then got 2 full-time jobs. I went to school full-time. I started throwing every dime. Over the next 10 years, I threw every single dime that I had into investments. I threw every dime that I had into making sure that, I never cared about the stuff at that point. I wasn't going to spend no money. I wasn't going to spend no money on housing, none of that type of stuff. Even when I moved out of my mom's basement and I had moved into one of the homes that I bought that I wound up still renting out today, and it was a 4-bedroom, 3.5 bathroom house, and it was just, I didn't need it. It was too much. I felt like I could be making rental income from that instead of that. So my father at the time was a maintenance guy at an apartment complex in which it was some townhomes that was available. And so I was able to move into there for free and then rent out the place so that I can continue to pour all of the rent money into the rent money that I was getting back from that. And I could live there for free and pour all of the rent money that I had from that back into buying more places, right? So, I just had this thug it out mindset. We gonna get it out the mud. Yeah, we can live comfortably as far as I could elevate at the time and then buy stuff according to my income like the rest of society, or I could keep grinding. He had his mentality. My daughter didn't know any different. All she knew was, and being in a good space and being provided for and all of that. And so I was unwilling to then, not learn the same lessons that I had when I got laid off the first time, when I was out balling and spending money and all of that. Because at, 18, 19 years old, you making $120,000 a year in a plant, you think that it's going to come forever, and you don't make the adjustments. Like even now, I only spend maybe 5% of my income, maybe 6-7% of my income on myself and my own personal lifestyle. And the rest of the 95%, 96% of my income, I spend it on investments and I plow it back into things. And that's when you see me building the houses and stuff, right? So my point is that thing pushed me. It motivated me. And I was just like, you know what? My daughter is not going to be one of those people that have to take out student loans. And so I'm not sure I get that push. I'm not sure that even though I was going through it at the moment, that I had that vision. Listen, 10 years from now, I'll be able to do whatever I want to do whenever I want to do it. And it wasn't until roughly 10, 11 years from there that I actually started spending money, because I was no longer able to stay for free at the townhouse that I was staying at in order to continue to drive that money. And while everybody else was laughing, oh my God, you know what I'm saying? Why he's so cheap, or he's supposed to be a millionaire. He must not be a millionaire because he living in this place or whatever. I wasn't focused on them. See, those type of people are still in the same spot or lower today versus me making a sacrifice and in focus. I call it having Noah vision, right? When everybody was laughing at Noah when he was building the ark, he didn't care because he already knew what his result was. And unfortunately, Noah had to watch the whole world drown because they didn't hearken unto the thing that he was trying to tell them to do. And instead of focusing on the thing that he had warned them about, or, doing that, he just focused on what God was focused on instead of trying to be like the world. So hopefully that give y'all some insight. It's a few different types of people. And life is 10% of what happens to you, 90% of how you react to it. Let me say it again. Life is 10% of what happens to you, 90% of how you react to it. My lights is out. I love you. I appreciate you. I'm going to holler at you guys later. I got to go get ready for the Millionaire Morning Show. Peace.